Valentine's Day coming up, I thought it was a perfect time to start a new series. The series is actually called Free and Single. And the reason why I've been thinking about this for a little bit over 2 years, about doing this and sharing some things that I've learned along the way. And I am young, I am 40 plus, I'm 30 plus actually, plus a whole lot. And things that I've learned along the way. And I was fortunate to have parents, who modeled love, but they didn't tell me everything. Some of the things that I had to figure out on my own. They didn't tell me a lot of things because, as progressive as my parents were for their generation, they still were in a different generation. And so I want to share some of that with you over the course of the next 3 weeks. Now, what's interesting is that, being a pastor, I get phone calls and emails all the time. People asking me questions. And the questions, they generally have the same theme. One of the questions is, how do I know God's will for my life? It's like, I get that question all the time. How do I know God is speaking to me? And in light of this topic, the question comes up all the time. How do I know God's will for the person in my life? How do I know if even God has a will for the person in my life? And it's something that people struggle with, and so, we talk about it and stuff and point out some things that I've learned along the way, some things from the Bible that shows really how God is interested in your life. But the other question that I get, and the other thing that people come to me more times than I care to even count or to quantify, is their relationship issues. They get a phone call and says, Pastor Gary, I need to speak with you because, and they go into the story. And the stories are heart-wrenching because there is nothing more personal than personal relationships. And it kind of, like, I hear the same stories all the time, right? There are variants of it, but it's like, well, when we were dating, she promised me that when we get married, she would. Or he said that he wouldn't do this, but he has. She treats me like garbage. She has no respect for me. I know he doesn't love me. He doesn't demonstrate that he loves me. He's verbally abusive, and I even got this one case where she's physically abusive. She beat a guy that I was speaking to a pulp. He watches football all day. Doesn't do anything. Doesn't help around the house, doesn't help with the kids. And the list goes on, and the list goes on. And all variants of the same theme. But as I listen to these stories and I hear them over and over again, the thing that strikes me all the time is, and please forgive me, right? Because I'm just telling you what goes through my mind. One thing that goes through my mind is, well, how come you didn't see that before? How come you didn't see that before you got married? Because generally speaking, whatever happens in the past and continues to happen in the past is going to show up in the future. And so it's like, how do you not think that? And then the other question is, how did you not think that was, again, I don't verbalize it, right? Because I'm just kind of listening. I'm like, how could you not think that this would be the outcome? And sometimes I think like, women will say to me, by the way, let me tell you, over the course of the next few weeks, it's going to be PG-13. So if there's going to be some things in here that I share that may make some parents a little bit uncomfortable. So if that's you, we have a really great kids program next door. I promise you, I won't go too wild, but, I'm like, but all he wants is sex. I'm like, well, he's a guy. Don't you know how guys think? And by the way, I'm generalizing, right? Because, that's not what all guys want. We're going to cover that in 1 week. What do guys want? And it's like, don't you know what ladies need? And so throughout all of this, I wanted to just kind of share really along the way. And, I was pondering these things, and it's amazing how the Lord works. I was thinking through, well, how am I going to share this? What points I'm going to share? There's so much in my head that I want to share. And quite unexpectedly, I came across a series of teachings from North Point Church. And they were dealing, this is years ago, they dealt with this. They were dealing with the same topics. And so, he organized a certain way. So I'm going to kind of follow that pattern to some extent. So the series that we're doing is called Free and Single. Free and Single. And who is the series for? Well, it's for anybody who is single. It's for anybody who is married and wish they were single. It's for everybody who is single but have no plans of ever getting married or getting married again. It is for married folks who are happily married because you know single people, and I want you to be able to tell people this and refer them back to some resources that we'll have. So it's for everybody. But what's interesting is that I went through our church directory this week, our church rolls, and we have more single adults in this church than married adults in this church. We have more single, that's just a slight majority. And we spend a great amount of time talking to married folks, when in reality, we need to spend a whole lot more time talking to single folks so that they don't become the married folks who call me up. Because as growing up, they said an ounce of prevention is worth a pound of cure. And so, here's a truism that's going to form. There are a couple statements I'm going to make today. And remember, when I do these 4-week series, right, I want you to think of it, and setting all this stuff up, like, Gary, when are you going to get to the point? My wife always asks me, when are you going to get to the point? I'm like, come along with me, honey. It's a journey. Just follow along with. And this is actually one big, giant sermon broken up into 4 parts. So you got to come for all 4, right? So here's a truism that's going to carry out through all the messages. Your present soon will become your past, but your past will show up again in your future. It's pretty deep, huh? Your present, whatever you're doing today, whatever decisions that you make today, whatever actions that you take today, whatever things that you think today that I'm young, it doesn't really matter because I got plenty of time on my hand. Tomorrow, what you did today will be your past. But the things that you do in your present changes your emotional or your soul, your DNA. And those things that you do becomes you, and that you shows up in the future. So if you think that I don't have to save any money today because I'm young, and I'm just going to spend, that becomes part of your DNA, and that becomes part of your habit. And guess what? In your future, it's going to show up, and you get married, and what do? You spend. If you are sexually promiscuous today, and you're like a butterfly, and you go from flower to flower, and you're going like, well, one day when I meet the right person, I'm going to stop all of that. That becomes part of your DNA. And guess what? When you get into marriage and all the the juicy stuff wears off, and you start to, I remember when I was a butterfly. And then I get a call and I say, well, how come you didn't know that? That's what he did, or that's what she did for the entire time. Because your present, whatever decisions you make in your present, will soon become your past. But your past will show up again for you in the future. And so, if you make the habit of dating, of going out with the wrong person today, if you see somebody and he's a cute guy or he's a cute girl, he's a cute girl, she's a cute girl. In today's day and age, let me tell you, there are some guys who make cute girls. Actually, this wasn't in my notes, and I'm going to share this with you, because you know what happens up here. My wife tells me, Gary, you just say whatever comes to your mind. It's not really true. I say most of what really comes to my mind. Now, we had a guy I have a secular job. At my job, he while he was working with us, he decided to go through and have a gender reassignment surgery. That's the official name. He had a sex change, and it was the weirdest thing. He was married to somebody who worked there at the same time, and my company is like really progressive, so they're like, okay, you can have town halls and tell people what's going to happen and stuff. And so I asked him, I'm like, so are you still going to stay married? He's like, well, when I'm a man, I'm married, but when I change, I'll be a woman, so I don't want to be gay, so I have to get divorced. Because it was a very interesting conversation. But let me tell you, when he transformed and he had his gender reassignment, you look at that face, and he was a cute girl. And let me tell you, it scared the brother half to death, because I'm like, thank God I'm married, because I wouldn't want to be out there dating, because, I don't know what. Anyway, that was free. That wasn't even part of my notes. And so, you date the wrong person, and you make a habit of dating the wrong person, you will come to appreciate the wrong person. And the wrong person will be very attractive to you. And you keep doing it, and you're honing those skills, and you're getting better at those skills. I'm like, yeah, I can finesse. And guess what's going to happen? The greater chance is that you're going to end up with the wrong person. So you imagine that you're dating, and then sometimes you think about marriage, and sometimes you don't. But say, I've been encouraged, the young people. I said, hey, because I speak to young people all the time. I was like, hey, you need to start thinking about Mr. Right. And you need to start thinking about Miss Right. And you need to make a list. And so I tell them, I'm like, make a list and check it twice, and go out and ask your friends, does this list seem like it's me? And it's funny, because when I tell people, because I over the years I've learned that you gotta tell them, look, pick no more than 3 to 5, right? Because they come up with this list, I'm like, she's got to be intelligent, she's got to be a Christian, she's got to be fun-loving, just preferably a virgin. But if she's made a few mistakes, we can deal with that, but not a whole lot of mistakes. She can't have too much of a past, and she's got to come from a good family. She's got to be professional. She's got to be like a natural beauty, like a cutie, like she's a queen, so supreme. And she's got to be fine. She's got to be fine. She's got to be in some guys like this, like a brick house. And she says, no, the guy that I want, he's got to be tall. That just took me out of the running. Thank God I'm married. Actually, my wife wanted that too. She wanted somebody tall, dark, and handsome. I don't know what happened. I would like to say that there was wine involved and she was drunk, and I asked her, and while she was inebriated, she said yes, so we went to Vegas. No, that's not what happened. That was actually a joke. But she says she wants somebody tall, dark, and handsome. Of course, he's got to be a Christian. He's got to have a good job. And not just a good job, but a great job. Because, in case I want to stay home, I want him to be able to take care of me. Right? And he's got to be a leader, but not just a leader. He's got to be like a servant leader. He's got to be like a good listener. And he's got to have a voice like Barry with a lot of bass, and a body like Arnold with a Denzel face. And you want, every time he steps in the room, you hear Salt and Pepper in the background saying, "What a man, what a man, what a man, what a mighty good man." And you're like, yeah, that's my man. And that's what you want, and so they create their list. But the unfortunate thing is, like, more often, so I tell people that, please make it 3, no more than 5, please. Yeah. But more often than not, a lot of people don't have a list. Just going around the place, and they're not even like looking for a person, and then, they'll be at a party or something, they'll be somewhere, they'll be in the office, and they look across the room, and it's like the movies, everything kind of stops, and they make eye contact. And it's like, wow, this is the man, the mighty good man. Man, she's royal. So royal. I just want her in my life. And so you look and you look and you look at each other, and it's like, yes, that is the one. This is the one. I found him. I found my soulmate. And sometimes your friends are looking on them like, what? But a lot of times you keep it away from your friends, right? You keep it away from your friends because you don't want them seeing, you don't want them messing it up, getting in the mix while you're working your game, while you're working your angle, while you're finessing. And what happens is that oftentimes, if you made a habit of making bad decisions, all of a sudden, you're in a relationship with one, and then after a while, that thing that you found, which was really just chemistry, is it chemistry? Yeah, chemistry is. Chemistry is like that feeling that you get, it's like butterflies and fireworks going off. It's like, man, this is perfect. This is the one. This is that God created them just for me. When God looked down in heaven and he's like, look, I'm gonna make myself a Gary Wallace, and right beside him, I'm gonna make this woman. And so you get in that, and the chemistry fades, and a few years into it, I get a phone call. The other thing that sometimes happens is that, so let's play this scenario out again. You look across the room and you see, there's the girl. You look across the room like, there's a guy. He's the one. She's the one. And you go and you start talking to them. And you find out that they're different than you. If the girl is kind of been doing her thing, having her fun, and the guy is kind of trying to be the man, trying to do his thing and try to do the right thing, right at that moment in time, there's a dilemma that's faced. The dilemma that's faced is, the guy is like, do I want to spend the rest of my life with this person? And then this person here, who's made a habit of all these mistakes and all these bad decisions and living in it and enjoying life, is faced with the question, would a man like that want a person like me? And therein lies the dilemma. And so we're here today, right here in the present, that will soon become our past, that will show up again into our future. and will show up again when we meet the person, the one. And here's the question. This is what Andy Stanley asked. Am I the person that I'm looking for is looking for? Let me try that again to get some of you. Am I the person that the person I'm looking for, this guy, this beautiful specimen of a man, am I the person that guy is looking for? That is looking for, right? Am I the person that guy is looking for? And so the question like comes inside your head, and if you're single, and that's the question I want you to ask yourself all the time. Am I the person that I'm looking for is looking for? I want this good man. I want this good girl. But does that good man or that good woman deserve to be with somebody like me? Am I that person? Or flip side, I am trying to do my thing, and I meet somebody and they have all these things, but they got all this crud. And do I want that? And at the end of this series, I want us to answer the question, I am actively striving to become the person that I'm looking for is looking for. That I'm actively striving because in this side of eternity, you will never get to perfection. But it is something in calculus where as x approaches 0 or something like that, it never really gets to 0, it's always approaching 0. Right? You're always striving, you're getting better and better and better and better and better and better and better. So to answer the question that I want everybody to have, if you're single or if you know anybody who's single or if you're married and you're struggling with your marriage or whatever you have, is that am I the person? And he answered the question, I am actively striving to become the person that I'm looking for is looking for. And when you're striving to become that right person, here's a funny thing that happened. You don't even have to look really hard for the right person. Because what happens is that, and I'm going to talk about this a little bit later on, is that you're becoming that person more and more and more. You're becoming more and more in that person, and your senses get really, really honed. And all of a sudden, you start to quickly recognize people who are not the person that you're looking for. And so, and here's something else that's true, is that as human beings, we have this pull on our life. It's kind of this sin tendency to kind of pull towards doing the wrong thing. Let me tell you, the wrong thing, my roots are coming out. The wrong thing oftentimes seems like so much fun. It seems like I can do the right thing tomorrow because I got tomorrow. And so there's a pull, and everything in our media, everything in, whether it's social or it's TV or the movies, pulls us one way. I don't know. I was watching TV this week and just kind of thinking about it, preparing for this sermon. I was thinking through, and as I was watching things, it's really to think about the messages that we get in the media. Right, so I was watching Scandal. You guys ever seen that show? And the amount of things that happened in that one episode that was completely contrary to anything that God would ever want was absolutely amazing. I was listening to a couple of songs on the radio. I was like, man, this message was about, let me see if I can remember. Let me see. I'm trying to remember here. So, let's see. This goes, raindrops, ragtop, something like that. Hotbox, something like that. Smoking up dope, cooking up coke, something like that. By the fact that you're laughing, y'all know the right words of the song. We need to talk afterwards. And I'm like, wow. It had a nice beat. It did have a nice beat. But the message that we get encourages bad behavior. It encourages wrong decisions. It pulls us. It desensitizes us, and it pulls us and pulls us. And that is what I call the pattern of this world. The pattern of this world pulls you in a certain direction. There's always this pull. There's always this pull. And God says, look, the first thing that you got to do is you got to not be conformed to that pattern of this world. The pattern of the world is pulling you. He's like, it's like, I'm not going to conform. But to be transformed, and that word, the original language, is a word for metamorphosis, which is not an instant change. It is a constant change. It's like a caterpillar turning into a butterfly, the process that the caterpillar goes through in the whole cocoon stage to become into that butterfly. And that's what we're doing. And God says, look, I don't want you to conform to the pattern of the world, but how do you do that? It's to be metamorphosized daily by the renewing of your mind. You see, it becomes a mindset that says, I am not going to conform, and so therefore I am going to do some things, I'm going to practice some things that makes me transformed so that I won't be conformed. I'm going to do these things and I'm going to actively pull against it. I'm going to pull against it because if left to my own devices, the pattern of the world, I am going to do the pattern of the world. But not you can be conform. And what it takes is deliberate action and it's deliberate practice. And the Bible outlines itself. It outlines in itself how to do that, especially when it comes on, well, including the areas where it comes on to love and relationships. And so, we all know that God is love, right? And so if you're looking for love, if you want to find that special person someday, if you want to be loved, if you want to love somebody and feel lovely and be loving and all that, you got to practice it. You got to practice it. And I feel Alan Iverson coming on. You got to practice. No matter how good you think you're at this love thing, you can't be a franchise player in this. You got to practice. And love, when you practice love, it becomes part of your DNA. And you practice love so you could be the most unlovable person, the most unlovely person, the most unloving person. But you're like, I'm going to practice. And over time, you start to change. And all of a sudden, you're not even thinking about it anymore. You're just doing. Because let me tell you, ladies, gentlemen, this is going to come up in week 3 or week 4. This statement, but I'm going to give you a preview here. The best indicator of the future of any individual is their past. It's not a promise. When I was growing up, my mother used to tell me, a promise is a comfort to a fool. Do you want me to promise you something? I'm like, but if you do, then, and I'm comforted, then I'm a fool. No, don't promise, just deliver. Your past is the only indicator of the future. It doesn't necessarily mean that it will happen. And so what needs to happen, and you're going to hear this again, is that when you're looking at an individual, you need to look at their recent past. And you decide, if I have that recent, and by the way, guys, recent past is not like 1 week. You need like a year or 2, not a year, like 3-4 years of looking to see that person is transformed. Now, just kind of a little bit different. If a person has gone through a transformation process by accepting Jesus, the first transformation is immediate, but the process of deprogramming sometimes takes some time. So you need to develop some time in the middle to see a pattern of change before. Anyway, that's week 3 or week 4. And so, when you start practicing love, you start to exude love, and people look at you like, they don't only look at you and say, what a handsome, what a man, what a mighty good man. They don't say that. They look and are like, that man is a lovely man.